Let's go to Vince in the city. Hi, Vince. You're on with Willard and Dibs.
Hey, what's up, guys? Earlier you were talking about salary cap and the luxury tax or whatever, and it made me think, is this going to be the end of the era of the big three coming up, since all teams are going to be feeling it? I think lately, or in the last 10 years, you could say there's been teams that had to have a high payroll with a big three that was at the top. And then the luxury tax was such a big deal that teams were still stacking their second unit with damn near stars. I mean, look at the Warriors roster in the first 3 years, or the first three finals runs. We had guys on the bench who should have been starters with other franchises. That was the first thing. The other thing is, as far as money goes, well, we have big money contracts going to guys. Mainly it's Andrew Wiggins, who's not really on the floor anymore. I feel like it's a waste of money in a player. It's all tied up. And maybe moving off of that player or some of those players in a package might help the situation, but you're then going to be trading a win less now for winning less even later. And I just think right now the roster is not assembled in a way to win. There's too many overlapping positions, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, Vince, there's some good points there. What you make me think of, and thanks for calling, is just to kind of go back again to the trading of Jordan Poole and sort of highlight what I think is the under-discussed part of that, which was the financial side. And the Warriors made that move for the obvious reasons, and then also for the reasons of probably trying to keep the big three together. If there was any hope of re-signing Clay, you needed Jordan Poole off the roster, especially with the new salary cap structure, the new CBA coming in. You're not going to have five guys making north of $30 million on the floor. And at that time, the Warriors no doubt thought that Klay Thompson might be. He might be a $30 million a year player.
Yeah.
So, maybe we should be looking at this. I know it's cold-hearted, but maybe we should be looking at this a little bit more like it is, which is that the Warriors have two humongous expiring contracts at the end of this year.
Right.
Chris Paul and Klay Thompson.
One of which they're going to let expire. Almost assuredly, Chris Paul's contract will come off the books, but the Klay Thompson one is the interesting piece because I just was looking at Spotrac, Mark, as I like to call it. Next year, the estimated luxury tax threshold is going to be $172 million. Right now, with Chris Paul inked for 30 for next year, they're at 174. So you take Chris's off, you're at 144, which leaves you $28 million for Klay Thompson. If Klay would play for 28 and you bring everybody else back, you're at that 172 going into next year with Steph and Klay, Wiggins and Draymond, GP2 and a player option, Kavan, Moses, Kuminga, Pods, TJD, and the rest of the fellas. So that's if Klay Thompson will take $28 million and he'll stay. So even if you get Chris Paul's 30 off the books, you got to pay Klay something, and it's going to put you still in that threshold of over the tax unless Klay takes a humongous cut, which I don't think he'll do.
By the way, as we're talking Warriors most of the day, a reminder that Anthony Slater, who got into the conversation with Steve Kerr last night, was on the Morning Roast today. So make sure you subscribe to Willard and Dibs in the free Odyssey app, wherever you find your favorite podcast. And while you're there, you can check out that conversation. Subscribe to The Roast and Steiny and Goo as well. Steve Kerr in just over an hour. Doc Pandy is 5 minutes away. We'll check in on GP2. Ambry Thomas, Eric Armstead, Christian McCaffrey, who will not play this weekend. That has been confirmed as well. That's to surprise no one, but Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey, the only two that have been confirmed as out for the 49ers in this game against the Rams this weekend. But we'll keep going with you at 888-957-9570. Jose in Mountain View next up. Hi, Jose. What are you doing?
I'm just driving.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's one of those things where I try to stay positive. I appreciate the 4 championships, but all good things come to an end. And I see that Coach Kerr is trying to do the best he can with the pieces he has, and there's just no magic formula, right? So I'm thinking the two teams that come to mind for rebuilds to contend and be consistent, I think, is the two approaches. I think right now is the most successful ones, the Miami Heat, with how they've been able to incorporate pieces here and there with trades and keeping some valuable players that have talent and skill. And then the other one's the all-out approach that OKC Thunder have made. And, damn, they look really good, right? So can we do either one of those two? I don't think so. I think we went all in with the big three, and now we're stuck. So unless we can make a trade for someone like a Tyler Hero to replace someone like a Klay Thompson, I don't see us doing much of anything. So we should just appreciate Steph for where he is and where he's at. Ride it out with the guys that we have now, like you mentioned, to get to that 170-something cap mark. And then let's embrace the future for what it is. It's a big unknown.
Yeah, I mean, look. Yeah,
Thanks, Jose.
Thank you so much.
And drive safe.
Look, I mean, this is part of the deal. And I think that maybe 4 championships in an unbelievable window has made people think that you can almost rebuild on the fly. Maybe that's
two timelines.
Two timelines.
Let's go.
It's an extension of
that
that.
Hard.
Well, as it turns out, yeah, it kind of is.
Well, when you blow the number 2 overall pick and then you have your young 2-guard, combo guard in waiting get popped in the face and stop becoming a productive player, then yeah, it becomes almost impossible.
But you know the way I look at it. There's 0 give up. Because I don't even know why you would. So, like, I'm not going to – I refuse to sit here and be like, this year's over. Why would you do that? I have no idea what's going to happen next. But if you ask me this, what's more likely? What am I going to hang on to even harder? The idea that this year could go somewhere special, or the idea that Steph Curry might still have one more special year in his career? I definitely think that's the more likely one. So in other words, I believe right now in this moment more in Steph Curry at age 36 or 37 than I do this year. Because I think that the Warriors, depending on what they do, might have an opportunity to build around him, get a little bit more youth, but like youth that's going to contribute right away. I think that there's more of a chance to do that in the offseason going forward than there is here in this month of January and February. That's probably not going to be what this year is about. The people that you have to trade are at their absolute lowest value ever, and none of them are expiring. So that's not something other people want.
Depends. You can always find a suitor out there. I mean, if Farhan was the GM instead of Mike Dunleavy, you would have made multiple trades with Seattle by now. We know that. And even though Seattle doesn't have an NBA team.
But no trades that matter.
Right. You'd be backfilling this mother jumper until your eyes were seeing red. But I do think that there are moves to make. It's a question of whether or not Mike Dunleavy in his first year is going to be given the license or wants to have the license to do something bold.